The council and police force responsible for the Medway towns take doorstep crime very seriously. They've decided to try something a little different to get the message across. And believe it or not, what they're doing is happening in this very building.
When those cowboys see us watching what they're doing. Ooh.
Bear with me, because there is an important message about doorstep crime to this musical.
Although the plays are about a very serious subject, we do use humour, we use songs that people know and can sing along with. So they see very reenactments of serious incidents going on, but we also show ways of avoiding it as well.
All the rules and the regulations, raising standards is here
For the past 6 years, the Solomon Theatre Company have been touring the country, performing 2 musicals called Trickster and Scambuster, which are aimed at raising awareness of cold-calling crimes.
You said £50.
No. I said £50 a square metre.
Square metre?
Come on, Grandad, we went through all this last week. You going to be mental or what?
The inspiration for these plays really is to find a way through live theatre of getting over the ways of avoiding being scammed and avoiding being cheated, really, by, you know, doorstep crime.
We lost £500.
It's believed that so far these shows have been performed 5,000 times to an audience of up to 25,000 people at venues right across the whole of the UK. Now, one person who knows more than most about the themes within this production is Shirley Vick. She lives close by the venue where the production is taking place. One of her family members was severely targeted by doorstep crime. Shirley has lived in the Medway area for many years, and I'm keen to find out more about the events that inspired her to go along and see today's performance. Now, Shirley, I know that you've had a rather distressing incident within the family. Describe to me exactly what happened that day.
Well, my in-laws were in sheltered accommodation, and unfortunately my mother-in-law at that time was in early stages of Alzheimer's. And so my father-in-law was doing the cooking, he was in the kitchen, dishing up the lunch, and someone came to the door. My mother-in-law answered the door, and it was somebody saying they were from the water board and wanted to check the water pressure.
Sheltered accommodation can be a prime target for doorstep criminals because they know that the inhabitants are likely to be vulnerable. And sadly, that's exactly what happened with Shirley's in-laws, Sid and Dorothy. So really, ordinarily, Sid, your father-in-law, he would have gone to the door?
Yes, normally. Or even if Mum had answered the door, he would have followed her out to make sure it was okay.
With Dorothy answering the door, the rogue easily managed to talk his way into the house.
He just came in and said, "Oh, I just want to come to check the water pressure. Won't take a moment." And Dad said, "Well, you can't do it now, you know, I'm cooking." Yeah, we're cooking. To the extent that my father-in-law picked his stick up and said, "If you don't go out now, you'll feel this." And the chap did go, but it was at that moment when he opened the door, they saw his accomplice.
And that, of course, is the crucial point here. The guy barged in, closed the kitchen door behind him in a very small space anyway.
Yes.
And in the meantime, then, the other guy was doing his business. Sid and Dorothy had been caught out by distraction burglars. They lost around £300, but as a proud and very independent man, the real cost of this terrible doorstep crime was that it fundamentally affected Sid's confidence.
He was always in command of the situation, and all of a sudden, somebody had stopped that happening. They'd come in and taken away the thing where he thought he was protecting Mum. And he felt he couldn't protect her any longer, if a stranger could just walk in and do something like that.
Tragic stories of the kind that happened to Sid and Dorothy were the inspiration behind the Scambuster musical. The actors have already noticed that they're making a positive difference to preventing doorstep crime.
Well done, yeah. Too good to be true. Too good to be true.
Almost the first show we did, we had an old lady sat in the front row. She was very quiet all through the show. On the way home, she said to the people that had bought her, "Have you had any double glazing done recently?" And they said, "No." "What do you mean?" It turned out that 2 days before, this chap had turned up, got in her house. He wouldn't leave until she signed a contract for £14,000 worth of double glazing. Unfortunately, they were able to get onto the police, they got it stopped, they got her money back. But if she hadn't come to see our show that day, you know, she'd have lost that money.
Any steps whatsoever that can be taken to make a stand against cold-calling crooks is a good thing. And it sounds as though Scambusters is doing a great job of raising awareness. It's a rather unusual way, fun way, really, to get the message across. So what did you pick up from it?
If you think it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And that was the other important part. Don't feel, oh, I've been so stupid doing that, I can't possibly tell anybody, because if you tell somebody, somebody else can stop doing the same thing.
But that's the lesson that I'm learning through this programme. We have all been scammed or almost scammed at one point or another. It is universal.
That's right. You think, oh, that never happened to me, but that's the worst thing to think, really. You want to be trusting, but you have to make sure that you're trusting the right people.
So if you had to think of one lesson that you learned from the musical, what would it be?
Oh, stop, think, and be sceptical.
Oh, go on, sing it.
No, I'm not. You don't have to do that. You can't pay me enough to do that.
Too good to be true. Come on. Too good to be true. Yeah. Too good to be true. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Well, many thanks, Shirley, and I think you'll agree, a very unusual but enjoyable way of fighting back against doorstep crime. And obviously, our very best wishes to the Scambusters team.